How do you choose who to trust? Doesn't it usually come down to personal connection? Then why do only 25% of people trust a real estate agent when our job is all about connection? Sounds like there's something missing. Here at Story Real Estate, we're looking for people with integrity and a willingness to serve others. When people get to know you in this career, they should discover a genuine and helpful person who can guide them through tough times. If that's you, join us today. I'm Chris Carpenter, the owner and founder of Story Real Estate. Click the Learn More button and let's see if we have a career you'll love.
And we're back. It's, I think, Wednesday at this point. Is that?
We don't know.
Is that
Stop
right?
acting like you know.
Is that
You
right?
don't know.
Okay. Yeah.
You're still wearing the same shirt.
There's a good reason to be confused. Welcome back to Cross Politics on the Fight Laugh Feast Network. Pastor Toby Chalk Knox, the Water Boy. Good to be with you. Have you joined the club yet to get all our conference talks? All our conference talks are in there. And also, if you don't know, did you see Bonson's economics courses?
I saw that show.
I actually started watching that.
That was free.
That was just free. That's just free. You
We're
just download the app and get that goodness.
giving it away like free money.
Yeah.
Business makers.
Oh, hallelujah.
Pre-conference.
Bonson, hallelujah.
Basically.
Summer has been great here at Cross Politics, even autumn, and also into early winter.
It is early winter. Yeah, I agree.
And we want you to join us on this ride. First, as Gabe just said it the wrong way, we're no longer calling it the Fight Laugh Feast Club.
That's right.
It's now called The Pub.
That's right.
Good habits are hard to break.
Second, we've launched a new line of content focused on family entertainment. We have our new show, This America, already in the pub, and our exciting new Rowdy Christian Guides, highlighting the practical guides to fun and godly life. Additionally, we will have the live streaming of our conferences. Well, we just had the conference, and this ad is already out of date. But we dropped those conference talks right after the talks were done, and they're now there in Pub TV app. Search Pub TV or Fight Laugh Feast, and it'll come up. And if you're a pub member, you've got access to all those conference talks from the ARC Encounter. Of course, all our past conference talks, all bundled within our new polished
So good.
Fight Laugh Feast app. Sign up today. Head over to fightlaughfeast.com. Join the pub. That's fightlaughfeast.com.
I just got to say, that Business Makers Conference, pre-conference, is still working on me.
Still working on you.
Still working on me.
Okay.
It's messed me up.
Okay, good. Well, let us know when it finishes that work. And then share that.
3 more weeks.
That wisdom. Okay. Hey, we're grateful to have with us Rick Raddatz. Did I say your name right, Rick? I hope so. Was a product designer, developer, and marketer at Microsoft for 12 years. He's the CEO of Meetin and executive director of the nonprofit Win-Win Revolution, which you can find at winwinrevolution.org. Rick, thanks for joining us on Cross Politic.
Thank you for having me here. Glad to be here.
Absolutely. So Win-Win Solution, it says on your website, finally to our seemingly endless political divide. So we're ready. We're ready. Play some music. Are you ready? He's got the
We're going
answer.
to end the political divide right here.
I mean, left and right, Democrats, Republicans, liberals, and conservatives. Here we go. Finally. Lay it on us. What's the solution?
Okay, the solution to our political divide. Well, first, you need to know that... what's that?
Jesus. That's the solution.
Jesus. Okay, well, first, you need to know that I love the free market. Okay, I'm a free market guy, always have been, always will be. And so I spent the last 17 years trying to figure out how we would apply free market principles to every aspect of governing. Okay? Because think about it. Normally, when we think of the free market, we think of governing the private economy or governing private action, same thing. But there's clearly more to govern than just the private action. We also have to govern public action, political action, foreign action, and we even have to govern our own government. We have to govern governing action. And an amazing thing happens when you apply free market principles to the governing of all human action. You end up fixing all the incentives. And it's still okay to disagree on things. That's the nature of freedom. And yet, because of these incentives, you can expect constant improvement now in every way. And by constantly improving in every way, that's where it becomes a win-win. The key maybe is to realize that freedom is not just a goal. Freedom is also a process. Once we get our freedom, we can start negotiating and constantly improve things. If we do that in every way, when we govern, we constantly improve in every way, maximizing justice along the way, in every way. And that's where the win-win comes from.
Wait a second. So how is this? This honestly seems too good to be true. This sounds
Take
like
my money.
This sounds like
Take my money.
I'm in one of those infomercials for one of those vacuum cleaners at 1 a.m. No, I'm kidding. So why do you think? Why should we think that given freedom, people automatically improve?
But wait, there's more. Well, that's the nature of freedom done right. Freedom done right is not anarchy. Okay, anarchy is when we govern too little. If we govern too little, then we're not protecting ourselves from harm. Okay, so see, freedom as a concept has built into it a way of helping us know exactly how much government is the right amount of government. We want to govern enough to minimize harm. That way we get freedom from harm. But we don't want to govern any more than that. We don't want to become the dictator dictating everything, because then we lose the freedom to act. And so by maximizing freedom, we protect ourselves from harm, we maximize freedom to act, and then people are forced to negotiate. And it's that negotiation that leads to constant improvement. It's not because everyone becomes good people. It's because, like Madison and Montesquieu said, ambition is now made to counteract ambition.
Maybe it would be helpful if you defined freedom. What do you mean? What do you mean by that?
Teeth to that, yeah.
Yeah, well, the point of view here is from a governing point of view. So what does freedom mean when we're governing? Okay, like individuals might know what freedom means to their lives, but when it comes to governing, what is freedom? Well, I'm going to define it like I just did, I think, which is freedom is when we have both freedom from harm and freedom to act. And so freedom is what we have if we are governing enough to minimize anarchy and not so much that we become dictators.
Seems like there's a lot of, I think was it William Buckley who said democracy is two wolves and a sheep deciding what to have for dinner?
Yeah, I think so.
Was that Buckley?
Well, originally, I think that was Benjamin Franklin.
Went all the way back
but I could be wrong.
Yeah,
I could be wrong.
I think you might be right.
Right.
I think that's right.
It seems like all this could be setting us up is for that exact scenario.
Oh, no. The whole point is to combat that kind of thing, is to we want to acknowledge that people can be greedy, people can be wolves, okay? People and corporations and government agencies and political parties and like everyone running around doing their thing, they could all be wolves. And so what do? Well, what we don't want to do is too little. That would be anarchy. That would be bad. That would be two wolves deciding who to have for dinner, and a sheep. But we also don't want to govern too much. If we become the dictator, then we're the wolves. We're creating political oppression, dictating what all the answers are. So the Goldilocks government is, again, where we govern enough to minimize harm, but we don't govern more than that. We don't become the dictator. That's freedom.
So
now,
go ahead. I'm sorry. No, Rick, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say that's easy to see in the private economy. Okay, if we don't police enough, we get crime running amok, and inner cities are seeing that right now. That's in the news. And yet, if we govern too much, and we govern too much in a lot of ways, if we over-regulate, if we over-mandate and so on, then we become the dictator. If we dictate the minimum wage, if we dictate rent control, if we dictate CEO price caps, we are destroying the free negotiation. We're destroying freedom. And even if we do some good, we are simultaneously destroying the mechanism of constant improvement that would have done even better. So that's the argument for freedom. And it's easiest to see, I think, in the private economy. What I'm trying to say is that this concept of the right amount of government, the free market approach, it also applies to public spending. It applies to politics. It applies to foreign policy, and it applies to governing overall. So it's by doing all of these aspects of governing right, that's where we start to see the win-win.
So, that's what I was going to come back to. When you say win-win revolution, I'm thinking to myself, I don't know any revolution where both people won. Mm-hmm. I can't think of one. I know that we won the one that happened with us and our folks across the pond, and I'm happy about that. I don't think
glad that wasn't a win-win.
That wasn't. So when we start talking about a win-win revolution, I'm wondering, where have you seen this particular idea worked out before?
Well, the idea of freedom working has worked in the private economy for centuries. The idea of freedom working has worked in the political economy, like checks and balances in the political economy prevent any one faction from becoming the dictator. And as long as you don't become the dictator yourself, then everyone has to negotiate. So we've seen political freedom work for centuries. And actually, even with foreign policy, if we defend our nation well, that prevents anarchy. And if we don't go too far, if we don't become the world dictator ourselves, then everyone's negotiating trade deals and so on. That's a better thing. So we've actually seen this idea working in the real world for centuries in these three ways. Now we have to extend this idea of the free market into the idea of public spending. And then once we do that, then we can extend it even further into education, because if you educate the people right, then we are going to govern right. There's but we can't educate right until we figure it out ourselves. So the big thing we need to figure out is government spending. So that's where it's a mess, and it can be better. And real quick, let's focus on social spending, because that's related to like social justice, right? A big political football. Right now here in the U.S., we live in the entitlement era. Mm-hmm. Well, what is the entitlement era? That's where a past generation has dictated what the spending will be for future generations. We're stuck in the middle. So that's not a free economy, is it? That's a locked up economy, locked up with these big entitlement promises. What this idea says is we should end the entitlement era. And maybe we can still have the same budget, but let's constantly reprioritize the budget. That's how you economize a budget. That's the free market approach to public spending. We don't be the dictator and have entitlement. We don't have anarchy and let people power make any decision they want to make. We force a prioritizing process. Like, it's okay to spend the money as long as you prioritize it. If you can't prioritize it, you shouldn't be spending it. Okay.
Pick me.
Go ahead.
Pick me. Question. Maybe this is too simple, and I don't know if, since we're talking about win-win, I guess I'm going to win this one.
We both.
Since it's a win-win kind of setup that you have playing here, why not just not overtax the people and let them decide what to do with their healthcare and with their parents, and let them have their own money and not raise the budget and give them their money back?
Well, remember back to James Madison.
No.
And where he argued ambition must be made to counteract ambition.
Okay.
James Madison and his mentor Montesquieu, they didn't say pretend ambition doesn't exist. They said acknowledge the existence of ambition, but make it counteract itself. So here's the thing. Your idea would work if only we could get the voters to be less ambitious. Good luck. That's not going to happen.
I thought we were win-winning here.
Demand lots of spending because they want to help the people they want to help, or they want to help themselves. Okay, so there's going to be this demand for government spending, and it's going to overwhelm the budget if we don't do anything. So what do we have to do? We have to cap it so it's sustainable at least, and then within the cap we have to prioritize it so that the people who, the ambitious people who want government spending for some purpose, okay, but they have to fight with all the other ambitious voters. That's how we make ambition counteract ambition. But we're not denying reality. We're harnessing reality.
Well, it seems like what we're allowing is envy.
Well, that's exactly the same argument that leftists make against capitalism. Okay, that's kind of like the greed argument.
No. That's not fair, because I'm not saying that you get to take my money so you get to do what you want to with it. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I want to keep my. So that's not the same argument, right? I'm saying just because you're envious of someone else doesn't mean you get to rob me more so you could do what you want to do.
Yeah. Well, you see, that person's envy is essentially that person's greed. Okay, so it's the same argument. Greed exists. Greed came first. Okay. The question is, when it comes to governing, is what do we want to do with greed? How do we protect ourselves from greed? How do we harness greed? And again, we come back to the Goldilocks government. If we don't do anything, greed will run amok, envy will run amok, and that's scary. If we try to dictate what the answer is, well, then we're the evil dictator, even if we're trying to be benevolent. The right answer always is the Goldilocks government, freedom, where we allow the greed to exist, but we give it an incentive. In the private economy, greedy people are incentivized to do things that please others. That's a good incentive. Greed is not good. The economic incentives are good. Same thing here. In a prioritized budget, because of forced competition, the greedy voters don't want to compete. They just want a bigger budget. We're forcing them to compete for a smaller budget, a capped budget, and we're forcing them to compete in a prioritized, in other words, transparent budget. It's the cap and prioritize reform that minimizes the size of government. To pretend that we can outlaw government spending in the way you're proposing, James Madison thought he did it. He thought that there was no article in the Constitution that gave the federal branch that power to spend money on such things. But when you artificially declare there's no spending allowed like that, you create the political incentive to create an entire political party that ignores that rule. And that's the political left. So congratulations, your philosophy just created the political left.
Oh! I don't know exactly how it got there, but ow.
Yeah, that actually, well, I think, you know what? Actually, I think it's the other way around. Your philosophy, yeah, because if you're going to allow people to steal from me because of their envy, so that they can have what it is that they want, that's exactly what the left is doing. What I'm trying to say is don't steal from people, allow individuals to use their money properly to take care of their elderly, right, and remove the responsibility of the government to have to act like it's actually part of the family. So I want individuals who are the family to be able to take care of their own people without actually being stole from, and take care of other people's people without having. I think there's all sorts of different governments that we can use to take care of the poor. But I don't think someone should have to steal from me in order to be able to take care of their people. That's exactly what I don't want.
No, I hear you. So just to make sure that I understand your point, if I understand you correctly, you're saying that when a society through its processes decides to tax its own citizens in some way, and then spend that money on other citizens, that you feel like that's theft via voting or something like that. Is that accurate?
I think that's close.
Yeah.
Okay. So
that would be injustice, right?
Yeah. Well, I'm going to argue not. Okay, I'm going to argue the opposite, and I understand the forum I'm in, and we'll see if I can convince you. See, I'm going to argue that it's my freedom as an individual to choose what society I want to be a part of, even if that society is not the society that you'd like to be a part of, if they'll have me. And so if I use my freedom to voluntarily be part of a society that taxes its own citizens that way and spends the money in some progressive way, if that's my choice, that's my freedom, how dare you tell me I don't have that freedom?
So this isn't a win-win.
Yeah, that's what I was just about to say. This doesn't feel like a win-win at all.
Well, it's not a win-win if you're going to think that
I should have freedom?
No, if you think that taxes are theft, if you think taxes are theft,
Not all taxes are theft, but some are.
okay.
Maybe
Let's scale down the problem a little bit. Let's say you just had 5 people in the context of freedom. They have their freedom. If 5 people want to come together and form a little mutual beneficiary society and pool some money for hard times and then use it in some way, you wouldn't have a problem with 5 people voluntarily doing that, right?
I would, depending on what it's for.
And I wouldn't define taxation as pooling money for hard times.
The 5 people are voluntarily coming together. It's their freedom, isn't it?
It's their freedom to come together. It's not their freedom to determine how much of my money they get to keep.
They don't get to
No, not your money. You're not part of this. On their own, 5 other people are coming together, voluntarily pooling their money, taxing themselves in the process, and spending it.
If they want to act like there's no God, then sure.
Okay. So as long as you're not part of that society, you're fine. That's their freedom if they like it.
No, absolutely not. That's what my point was. There's still a standard on what they get to decide. They get to take from other people.
Not other people, themselves.
That's
They're
right.
voluntarily part of the society.
And I'm saying themselves. Absolutely. They can't just say, we decide we get to take this much money from ourselves.
They can't make up morality.
They can't voluntarily contribute to their own little club? That doesn't make any sense.
Well, that would be theft.
Not if it's voluntary.
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Pat.
Well, I guess I'm not following your objection. So if I guess I'm leaning over here with him for a second.
If the idea is
the vacuum salesman is making sense to me for a second.
Well, I'm saying that if they get together and say, we get to calculate all of them, or more than 10% gets to be gathered then for each other. I'm like, no, you don't get to do that. You don't get to put an arbitrary number in a group of what's ours as a unit.
It depends on what. Yeah, it depends on how.
If we're talking about
much.
A government.
Yeah, he's just saying like a club of people, like.
Oh, so me and you, us 3, or just.
I think he's just talking about 3.
Rick, are you just saying just 5 people?
Just getting together.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Go ahead. Y'all do what you want.
Okay.
Well,
the next question is, does it make a difference if there's 500 instead of 5?
Sure. Do what you want. Do what you want.
But here's one thing.
What about 500 million instead of 500?
Let me interject here real quick, Rick.
Okay.
I think this is a helpful exercise, by the way. So thanks for framing it this way. I guess the thing that I would say, and this is now I'm going to swing back around to my friend Knox's point, is I think there's freedom of association, but within freedom of association, there are certain things that are written into the nature of the world. Things like family, for example, such that I don't like. If me and Knox and Gabe and Neil and Garrison, those are our helpers here in the studio, if we all got together and we decided, we're going to do, we're going to gamble on football or something like that. We're going to do fantasy football. While I have the sort of legal freedom to gamble away my money, it would be immoral for me to put into the pool more than I morally should in order to take care of my family.
Sure.
So there's other constraints besides just sort of like what the civil government, like the civil government will let me like gamble away my whole paycheck so that my wife and kids go hungry. But I really, that isn't real freedom. That's not real. It's not real freedom for me to throw away my paycheck and not provide for my wife and kids. Do you see that? So like you could say, can they set as much money as they want? Like here's the dues. It's $7,000. It's $10,000 a month, and that's like that's everything. Well, yeah, I can, but I ought not, and that's not really freedom to be able to throw away my responsibilities to my family. Does that make sense?
Well, I agree with you that would be a bad scenario. I mean, the person shouldn't do that, and so the person would no longer want to be a part of that club. The person would want to leave that club at that point if it's threatening their family, and that's kind of the point.
But what
here.
if they don't?
Well, then that's on them. That's a bad choice. That's their choice.
Right. But it's not freedom.
Well, the whole point is it is freedom. It's
Are you kicking black folks out again? I'm wondering. I'm starting to feel like if we don't want to play your game and we get outvoted, I don't get a chance to.
That is freedom.
Okay. Just send me back on the boat then, Rick.
Well, I think what Rick is saying is you can voluntarily join the club or leave the club.
Right.
No, that's what Rick's saying. So,
can you though?
Well, that's where I think the analogy breaks down.
Right.
Is that we can't just all of a sudden decide to leave the government.
Right. Like those states.
No, you can. It's paperwork.
Not according to the Civil War.
Paperwork is not philosophically significant. Yeah. Okay, you got to pay your past taxes and file some paperwork, and then you are no longer a U.S. citizen.
Okay.
But what if Idaho doesn't want to be part of the union? To Toby's point, like that's what I want. I love secession. I'm from Texas. It's making me exciting.
Yeah. That's a whole nother discussion.
Ain't that the truth?
But is it really? I mean, I guess that's the whole point. Like the whole point was
we went from people to 5 million.
The states in the union said we voluntarily joined this club, and now you're putting a gun to our head saying you can't leave.
That's actually a really good point. Let's remember that it is a mistake always to compare the real world to some imaginary impossible ideal, okay? Because we'll always find the real world to be falling short. And so I think you raise a really good question, and I think that is a longer discussion. I'm trying to make a simpler point.
Okay.
I'm trying to say that, hey, it's my freedom to be a part of whatever society I want to be in if they'll have me. That's society's freedom to choose me or not. But if I'm in a society voluntarily, then darn it, I'm in the society voluntarily. That's where it's voluntary. Now, once I'm a part of society, I have, in writing or de facto, accepted the rules of that society, as long as I decide to be a part of that society. So that includes some degree of taxes and a process to change the taxes.
Right.
It's voluntary because I'm here voluntarily.
I don't mean this as a complete curveball, but let me just throw this out there. I understand that, you and I, and, we emerge and we're like, okay, do I want to live in America, or do I want to move to Canada, or do I want to move to Mexico, or whatever? But what about children?
Yep.
And specifically, what about unborn children?
Okay, yeah, we can. Let's just solve everything right now.
I want to know.
It's a win-win, Rick. We're for the win-win.
How do we get the win-win between my body, my choice, and
that's a great question. That's a great question. Remember, what I'm proposing here is we're taking the free market approach and expanding it now to all aspects of governing, right?
Yeah.
Another way of saying that is we're taking the laws of economics, the fundamental laws of economics, and applying them to all the governing of all human action. The beautiful thing about the laws of economics is that the laws of economics do not tell us what to do precisely. They only help us fix incentives. It's the incentives that help us improve cell phones and cars and rocket ships and so on. The laws of economics do not tell us how to build rocket ships or cars or cell phones. Now, if we apply this idea to politics, we end up with a political philosophy that says, let's all come together on the free market approach. Let's all come together on the fundamentals. And then it's okay to have disagreements about everything else. You and I might disagree about what the best car is or the best cell phone and so on. That's okay. So you and I might disagree on abortion law or gun control or
slavery.
Border security. In this philosophy, that's okay. So the win-win comes from coming together on the fundamentals. That's healthy. Accepting a disagreement on everything else. That's political freedom. That's also healthy.
Isn't the right to life the most fundamental freedom?
Personally, I agree with you. Yeah. And I'm happy to give an even stronger argument in favor of the right to life. But what I'm saying is people are going to disagree. And that disagreement, see, the win-win doesn't mean everyone agrees.
Sure.
That would be insane. The win-win comes from constant improvement in every way. If we constantly improve private action, that's prosperity. If we constantly improve the public funding of social programs, we're helping people better over time. That's social justice. And so that's the win-win. The right gets limited government economic freedom. The left gets social justice. The center gets the combination. It's actually a win-win-win. Michael Scott would approve.
Wow. Let me read this out.
I declare bankruptcy.
Page.
I love that episode.
Page 50 is a distinctly Christian marketing company striving to help Christian-owned businesses grow and succeed in our digital age. They don't just want to make a paycheck. They want to change the world, and that means building it alongside you. I think that's also a win-win, right? The mission is bigger than just Sunday. Page 50 wants to help Christians recapture the work week, economic and political influence, and the public square. Page 50 doesn't work with just anybody, but if you are a Christian believer, they want to work with you. So visit page50.com. That's the word page, Page, 50, FIFTY.com, and see what they can do for you to do today. That's page50.com.
Hey, Rick, I really appreciate you coming on the show. I think it's intriguing what you're thinking through and how you're trying to work through this. Where can people find out kind of more of your philosophy here?
Yeah, it's all for free up on winwinrevolution.org.
Awesome.
So that's our website, winwinrevolution.org.
Okay.
Appreciate you, Rick. Thank you very much for your time, man.
Fun conversation, man. Thanks.
We'll have to do this again. Maybe next time we can
grab a beer.
Let's get a beer and sit down, and then we will really win.
If you're single, get married. If you're married, have you some kids, and if you have kids, go baptize them. Until tomorrow, love God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength. Love your neighbor as yourself. Go fight, laugh, and feast. This is Cross Politic.
Hi, I'm Luke Ritchie. Wrong timeline. Okay, that's better. Time travel mechanics can get a little bit tricky. I'm Luke Ritchie, Chief Visionary Officer of Gravity Jack. In 2009, we founded Gravity Jack and essentially patented AR. What I'm about to tell you about is a vision that was 14 years in the making. War Tribe of Binyamin. This is a game that feels so real, it might be. It's a genre-defining game for AR and mobile and the Apple Vision Pro. We've integrated artificial intelligence not just into the characters in the game, but actually in the business model of War Tribe. So I love augmented reality games. They're one of my favorites. But the problem is it seems like they've added AR as an afterthought into the game. What if you sat down for 14 years and planned the entire thing around augmented reality? Games make a ton of money, and typically that money doesn't end up in the pocket of the players. We intend to change that. Lastly, and this is important, half the world has never and never will be targeted by big tech for an AI, natural language processing engine. We're definitely going to change that. War Tribe of Binyamin has gameplay like you've never seen before. We have portals opening everywhere, we have holographic communication, but what's really cool too is the world of 2133 is accurately geo-overlaid on the world of today. We're laser focused on ROI for our shareholders, which is you. One of the things we're doing that's super unique that's never been done before is taking 10% of in-game revenue monthly and giving it off as a dividend. The other co-founders and myself started Gravity Jack in 2009, but in 2007 we'd actually sold our company to a gaming company. We've hired the best of the best in terms of game development. Our director of development, product designer are all veterans in the gaming space. And not only that, we're going after a market that's gigantic. We're combining 4 huge major markets: artificial intelligence, augmented reality, translation, and gaming, all for a combined market value of $1.85 trillion.
Our incredible history has led us to be experts in mobile development, augmented reality, AI, gaming, and computer vision. It's been a wild ride here at Gravity Jack. A benefit to being so early on in augmented reality has led to a robust patent portfolio with active revenue and more to come. We've had the privilege of working with clients such as Oscar Mayer, Kraft, Lincoln, Samsung, T-Mobile. We've also worked on non-lethal Department of Defense contracts as well. We were a reference developer for Meta on the Oculus 2 directly, creating a game where other developers look to our source code for best practices. Early on in Gravity Jack's history, we did a game for Double Down Casino, and at the end of that contract, it was grossing $35 million a month. Our robust history has led us to be experts in augmented reality, AI, gaming, computer vision, and mobile development. Play to earn opportunities for the impoverished create an AI language model for unreached people groups, allowing us to have an eventual monopoly on speaking to half the planet. Our focus is shareholder dividends immediately after the game and into the future to create a game that's going to blow the world's minds. And we're pulling people out of poverty and into productivity. So what's the ask? Join the Binyamin.